We are live. Thank you for joining me. So, this is going to be a continuation of the Tarantino theme that I started last month with Reservoir Dogs. Today, we are talking about the 1993 True Romance, which he wrote and has said that he thinks is actually really solid film, unlike Natural Born Killers, which we will get to. The movie's rated R, so will this video be. This is going to be a completely spoiler-free review. And I think that pretty well gets us into, I fucking love this movie. I think it is one of the best Tarantino movies. I love his direction, but I do think that sometimes the ones that he didn't direct, there's other directors that just really do wonders with his material. Now it's harder to judge something like Natural Born Killers because he's on the record as saying that that they changed so much. He doesn't consider it one of his movies. But this, From Dusk Till Dawn, fuck me, there, Robert Rodriguez, and here Tony Scott just really they their respective styles work incredibly well for Tarantino's material. I think that might be the I'm gonna, before I get into more specific, right, and anything, or not anything, but some of the stuff that I'm vague on in this video, I do talk about in detail in my thoughts video. But let's see. I think yes. Let's start with some. So one of the things is that of all of Tarantino's movies, this is probably the one that what's the word? You can really see how like a more mainstream audience would be able to get into this. Like when Reservoir Dogs came out, like some were open to it, and it is recognized as really impressive. But there were a number of people who were like, "This is just too cynical. This is too much," And if there was one, what's the word? If one, let's see. If you know someone who they either don't like other Tarantino movies, or what they've heard about other Tarantino movies kind of puts them off, but they're a little curious, or they just want to watch at least one Tarantino movie that they can be like, yes, I like, when people mention them in conversation, which happens, yeah, they can be like, oh yeah, that I really love that one that he did, I think the for various reasons, this is the one that is most likely to, work. It is, for one thing, the protagonist is more someone that like we can see ourselves in. I'm not saying that I would argue that the vast majority of the time we can get some kind of emotional, with the protagonists of his movies. Like some of them we don't necessarily, I suppose an argument could be made, there isn't even one that where we're just like, okay, everything they do is just like the exact thing they should do, or something. But the what's the word? Um, I This is one of the ones where it's the most right. Yeah, yeah. Shit. It's not necessarily the most, but um, this was the first time I believe. I can't comment on Four Rooms, and just for the record, I haven't watched Death Proof, but other than that, I can comment on all his movies. But this was the first time that he wrote a protagonist that was genuinely like someone where we, the viewer, can like be okay. I could be that person, or at least that's a person that I can say, okay, I'm on board with like the overall thing they're doing. You know, it wouldn't be the, you know, it's not that every movie he made after this, wrote and or directed, has that, but it was the first time he did it, and I love both approaches. Honestly, I think he really makes it work. Essentially, I think pretty much the only time where I wasn't really necessarily on board with a protagonist was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It just felt like, wow, you really, sure, Mr. Gift Horse in the Mouth looker, Jesus. Um, but I've done an entire video talking about that movie. I'm not going to go too much over it. I forget if I did multiple. But yeah. Um, and also it's very easy to follow the plot and character. It's not necessarily that, before, outside of this, like it's fucking impossible or something, but just you can really follow um, the yeah each every single time there's something new in the plot, you immediately, you know follow. Yeah, it also doesn't have a nonlinear timeline, which, it's not the only time that but it's somewhat less. Yeah, it doesn't exactly happen in every of his movies that there isn't any, and that's another thing where, if you're not really on board, the nonlinear timeline might throw you for a loop. I'm not saying he's the first. Don't worry. Don't come after me. I realized there were movies, and especially books, that had nonlinear timelines before Tarantino started doing it. But in 1992, when Reservoir Dogs came out, there were a lot of movies that did not fucking go there at all, especially like American movies that were like trying to be watched by a lot of people. It might more be like something that's trying to be artistic more than profitable. And I'm not here to fucking relitigate that entire thing. I think there are movies that have been described as art that I love, such as, Andrei Tarkovsky's Solaris, and there's a lot of, mainstream like profitable hits that I love. I think you can go too far in either direction. Okay, you can't go too artistic, but you can, as someone who watches movies, like if all you ever watch is like artsy stuff, I think you're missing out. And if you've never ever watched even a little bit of like art film, like I don't want to sound like I'm telling you to eat your fucking vegetables, but yeah, you are not gonna know if you like it if you never ever try. I'm a big believer in sample everything, try everything at least once. You be surprised what you're gonna end up really being into. Uh, Try to find, today with the internet, it's easy enough. But try don't get like burnt on something that's not great for the first time you get into it. Find a guide to tell you. So it's, okay, I really want to watch something from this. Google to find what's best for newcomers, and just go with that. Don't go too adventurous either, because yeah, you might end up saying fuck this entire type of thing. Not only talking about movies, by the way. Yeah. Anyway, I think, or even media. I think. Okay, I guess at this point I gotta fucking say it. Okay. Yeah. Basically, one of the only things, don't like fucking, drugs and violence. Don't, violence should always only ever be a last resort outside of fiction. And yeah, drugs, like, don't try everything. I'm not the right person to say. I've seen there's YouTubers I really respect that have gone into it. Let's see, I would say Thought Slime did at least one video where they talked about, okay, so these are the effects of these particular drugs. I know Harlan Spinks has talked some about his, he's done some drugs and he's fine, clearly. Don't buy the war on drugs bullshit. It's propaganda meant to ensure that it's the government, the U.S. government, that makes money off drugs, not anyone else. It's more of a monopoly than a let's get rid of this bad thing. And the war on drugs from the start was a tool, not to actually do anything about drugs, but one of the Nixon aides has since come forward and said, yeah, we did it to arrest black people and hippies because they were giving us trouble. And Trump is taking a page on that fucking playbook. Jesus. Yes, I think that might bring us to the. Let's see, what's the other thing? Yeah, another reason why this might be the most. I haven't checked my list to fuck for that right now, but I can imagine this is one of the ones that has the most mainstream appeal. It lives up to its title. It really is about a true romance, and I've met people. I've met guys who they might not say that this is like the only movie where they are okay with the fact that there's a love story, but when they talk about movies they love, conspicuous absence of the entire, like, yeah, like pretty much anything that has romance in it, they're less, or they'll outright say, oh, I love this movie, but the romance though. And I'm like, I watched that movie. The romance is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It might even be great. And I know, I've met women who, and to be clear, the following is not gender essentialism. I'm talking about socialization. Yeah, I've met women who are like, when they talk about movies they love, there's almost no movies that have violence of any kind, and maybe not any others at all, except for this one. And I know couples who'll sit down and watch this for like date night. It just works incredibly well. Like, it is like, I'm not one of those people who say I think romance, like, obviously I can't speak for people who are aromantic. I am aware that people like that exist. I am learning. I don't know enough about them yet to really, So when I'm the following is, I realize does not apply to at least a number of them. I will admit, at first I thought, oh, so it means like no romance, and it's actually no. Some of them, well, some, but fuck, am I confusing them with asexuals? God, I'm sorry. I really am trying. I'm not the best at learning new things. But But yes, what I'm about to say might not apply to people who are aromantic, at least some of them. But romance, like finding someone you love and getting to be with them, like I appreciate that not everybody, some people don't need that, but I do think for many of us, that is part of having a healthy, happy life. So I have always thought it was ridiculous. Like I remember being a child and thinking, oh, romance is amazing, yeah, the other boys would, just hated it. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe some guys never grew up, but yeah. As such, I've watched many movies that have romance, and while I can usually enjoy it because it's romance, I am willing to acknowledge there are a number of them that really do. Yeah, there's some really really shitty ones out there, and yeah, this is not one of them. And it's really it's one of those cases where it could so easily completely derail the movie if we did not believe in the relationship or want the relationship. But like the moment that we see, they're called Clarence and Alabama. The moment that we see the two of them together, it's like, come on, man, they gotta end up together. I'm not going to spoil whether or not they do, but that is a through line for this film. We really, really want to see things work out for these two. And without that, the movie would not work. Like if every time Alabama came on screen, or every single time that they talked about how much they love each other or expressed it physically, yeah, if each time one of those things happened, we absolutely hated it. Yeah, like the movie would absolutely not. It would crash and burn. So it's daring, both writing and directing perspective to put so much of it in here, because the thing is, the other half of it, you know, there would still be a lot of people watching the movie, but we wouldn't be returning to it. I've been watching this on and off for, I guess it's not quite 30 years, because when did DVD come around? I don't know. 25 years, I would say. I've been, every so often I'll watch it again, and yeah, um, there's a lot of romance movies and violent movies that's not true of. I think that might more or less cover. Um, I think that's the overarching. So yeah, um, let's talk some writing. So yeah, the two of them have a meet cute, and we, yeah. Um, I don't think I want to give away too much about, because I kind of love the way you find out in the movie. I'll just say that Clarence um, perhaps does something that we can understand why he did, but it might not have been the best course of action. And then we see the consequences to said, um, yeah. And they do such a good job, because it is one of those things where, like, yeah, the kid's in over his head. He and we want it to work out for him, and we find ourselves. It's one of those things. For some movies, it works, that we're sitting there thinking, "The fuck is he doing? No, don't do that. I would never have done that." But this is not one of those movies. It's important that we watch it and we're like, I think I would have made that same mistake, and yeah, they do such a good job on that. Yeah, the movie has a high, I get the wording right, psychological accuracy, authenticity, and level of detail. Um, and yeah, there's a decent variety to the people that we meet. Like, given that there's violence, there's some. It's not a spoiler to say some of the characters here have a very comfortable relationship with violence, to the point where it's I don't want to meet one of these people. Not just in a dark alley, like in a sunlit yard, nowhere would I want to meet these. And what's the other thing? Yeah, uh, yeah. The tone does such a good job, because it really does. Like, I don't. Maybe I've already made it clear, but I'm trying not to repeat myself here. It leans into both the violence and the romance, and um, it's one of those things where it tries to keep them separate but related in a very effective way, because, like, at the end of the day, um, the what's the word, the um, it's not truly 100% separate. It's not as connected as Natural Born Killers, but yeah, it is very much. It is a story of both the yeah, um, and it does such a good job. Like, the romance doesn't end up feeling cheesy, and though I'm willing to acknowledge that for some the violence goes overboard, and I do. Um, I guess I'll just briefly note, I discuss in detail some of the violence, the the handling of African American characters, and gender in my thoughts video, where I talk spoilers. But let's see. I think, yeah, the overall, the violence doesn't get to a point, or at least not like, it doesn't derail it. It doesn't become just a movie where violence occurs, which does happen for some movies. I am very, I've seen in fiction, I've seen a lot of violence. I've been watching. Let's see. I guess it was probably when I turned 13 that I started watching very violent stuff. So yeah, uh, 25 years, I guess, thereabouts. I think the there are movies out there that that get to a place where the violence is just, it's essentially numbing. We don't feel anything. We don't feel the shock anymore, because it's numbing. Um, and yeah, movies where it's meant to. It may be meant to communicate that characters don't care about the violence, but it ends up being that the audience also doesn't, which ideally you should be able to avoid. You can show boredom in a movie, for example, without boring the audience, if you are good enough at the craft. So let's see, what's the other thing? And the romance never gets too cheesy. That again, like, I've talked about this movie with people over the course of 20 years, not like ongoing, but various people I've met. Comes up in conversation, and they're like, True Romance, that's one of the best. And never once have I heard one of them say that they felt like the romance was cheesy or too much or something. Let's see. And I guess that does cover tone. Yeah, the dialogue. I'm gonna try not to repeat everything I said about Tarantino's dialogue. I did a video on Reservoir Dogs. I talked a lot about the dialogue there, even in the non-spoiler section. But yeah, he's just really fucking good at it. And where that movie already, so I'm talking about how this differs from, and adding to. Yeah, Reservoir Dogs already had pretty good number of people that are saying these words, and the talent was through the roof. This one has more and bigger names, and there is perhaps slightly more of a range here. I'm not saying not of like the talent is incredible in both of these, but I think it's more the direction. So let's get into that. Yeah, like Tony Scott, like he fucking made these work so well, and he understood, like, one of the things, but both Rodriguez and Scott have more visual styles than Tarantino at least did around this time, and yeah, like some of his material works incredibly well for that. And when it requires a slightly more subdued style, they do also understand that and go for that in these two movies. Scott has, I guess, okay, I'll start by saying, so as mentioned in the Reservoir Dogs video, Tarantino, at least at this time, in some ways he's changed some, but he liked long takes and wide angles, and that worked incredibly well for Reservoir Dogs. The paranoia there is palpable. There's at least one camera angle in that movie that straight up kind of makes it feel like, is someone fucking watching these characters, like, other than the audience? I mean, is someone in universe, like, peeping on the, or yeah, not literally that, but yeah, you know what I mean. And this story is not really one of paranoia. It's more this thing of, yeah, this very straightforward unfolding of, yeah, Clarence did something, did a bad thing, and yeah, things are happening because of that. It's not really paranoid as such. And Scott had this very hyperkinetic style. He likes the camera moving in the face of the character and cutting to other angles frequently. And it works so fucking well. This is also, God, I'm sorry. I already mentioned I love both of these, the direction of both of these. I'm glad that I don't think Tony Scott would have done as good a job on Reservoir Dogs as Tarantino did, and I don't think Tarantino would have done as good a job on True Romance as Scott did. Yeah, like, when it needs to be more, like, sometimes he will let things just play out. Scott did in this movie. But when it's tense, and where Tarantino would sometimes, have these, long takes, wide angles, Scott is right up in the action and constantly moving, and he just had a way of building, maintaining, and then relieving tension that, like, I haven't watched everything Tony Scott directed. And I'm not saying he, that his movies were like fucking perfect or something, but God, when he just, in my experience, it tends to be like the script, I want to say he was the one who directed Crimson Tide, and yeah, like in that movie, it really is just the script that let him down. He did what he could to make it work. Some of the time, it did arguably work, but I do appreciate what that movie was doing. Um, yeah, I think that might be about that. Let's see. Yeah. Because it's a Tarantino movie, so yeah, at least once some people will there'll be a threat of guns, and yeah, the way it's filmed and edited here just really it's fucking incredible. Um, yeah, I think that let's see, where does that get us? We get to the I gotta check the list. Yes, a list of all the subjects that I don't want to miss. Right, the production value is also really high. My wrists are too fucked to check right now, but I'm pretty confident that this had a bigger budget than Reservoir Dogs. Understandable, established. I mean, it's fuck that it works that way, but it sadly does. Scott was significantly more established when directing this movie that Rodriguez was, that Tarantino was when directing the first, Reservoir Dogs. But it is also one of those cases where that was a movie that didn't need that much money, and what they had was spent very well. But this, like, there's a bunch of different sets and locations. There's so many characters, just like, and everywhere you go, every set, location, and also the costume and makeup, it tells us so much about these people. Like quite early on, so this is not a spoiler. We meet Clarence's dad, played by Dennis Hopper, and just like the moment you see him, you see his car, you see his home. We learn so much about him that doesn't need to be said, and just yeah, you know. It's they do that throughout the movie, so it's really really effective. Where again, like Reservoir Dogs, not that much in the way of that, and yeah, like a quick example. We meet there are several characters that meet with one particular character in Reservoir Dogs, where they're in the same place. And I'm not saying that doesn't work. I think it communicates that both of these characters are trusted by the other character, the one that they meet. Right? These are separate scenes, by the way. He meets with them one by one, and that does have an impact also. But I do think it works incredibly well here. That there are so many places, and this is one of those movies where, like, if it had less money, you can tell where okay, I think they probably have cut this and say, oh well, that's one less location, less. We don't. That scene has extras, and um, yeah. We don't need it. We can just have the character say, oh, by the way, this happened to me. But the fact that we see it just adds so much. Like, this feels like a full world. Reservoir Dogs. I'm not saying this movie is necessarily better, but I do think that, as mentioned, I think it has a greater chance of like mainstream appeal. Yeah. Uh, let's see. I think this maybe also an argument could be made that this does I don't know if better, but it feels like it is trying to make sure that the pop culture references don't become excessive. And I don't think that they did become excessive in Reservoir Dogs, but yeah, this again, that's another thing where mainstream, like, yeah, I've shown Reservoir Dogs to people who ended up fucking loving it, but like during some of the conversation, they weren't old enough to remember that fucking music or those shows and movies, so they're like, I can't really follow this, like during those conversations. I mean, and here, like, it's still, the references are not necessarily that much newer. Yeah, they're. I don't think they are. But in part, there's a little. Yeah, it's spread out more. Like, you could see where, okay, this scene might have had more of this if the yeah. I think that might bring us to the so let's see the music is great. There's several really effective needle drops. I would not say that, like, I could sit down and just listen to the soundtrack to Reservoir Dogs and just be like, oh, this is fucking amazing. He did such a good job. Um, the music here is great. I'm not to take anything away from that, but yeah, that is one area where that tops this. This does have this really great. Um, it's not a song, I guess you'd call it a theme tune. Basically, like, just, yeah, a musical. I feel like it might be more than a leitmotif, but it plays a bunch of times. Basically, like, yeah, when you know, yeah, it's sort of the theme tune of the romance. And yeah, it works so well. Like, every single time it pops up, it just puts a smile on your face. Just, yeah. I think that might cover the music. So the sound design is great for reasons that I can't really go into without spoiling. But yeah, I do talk about it in the spoiler video. You've got the yeah. So I I'm not gonna spend forever on every single character. I'll just but some of these I gotta fucking talk about. So Clarence, this for a long time was the only movie where I was like, okay, Christian Slater, some in at least this movie, he's really, really great. I've tried to open up and be more receptive to, but yeah, I think it might be like when he's given really good material, like here, he's really great. When not as much, which, fair enough. There's actors who need, like, I saw someone point out that the problem, if shit, what's that movie called again? The William Gibson short story. Damn. Fuck. I really thought I had it. The yeah, William Gibson short story adaptation. Keanu Reeves as the lead, and I saw someone point out the problem with Keanu's performance is that he's given insufficient or bad direction, and is also, the guy who directed it was a painter and hasn't, I don't think, has directed at all since, or did before. Um, yeah, in that movie, Keanu is not. He's genuinely bad. He needs a computer, and he wants room service. Um, and then, I don't know if I've watched a bunch of Keanu Reeves movies. I don't know if I would say he's ever, like, amazing, but certainly there are other movies where he is better, or at least less, like, yeah. And let's see. There's the. I think that might be the case with yeah. Here also with his now I've forgotten his fucking name. the guy who plays Clarence. I think in other movies, that's why he's not so good there. I think, yeah, I know my ADHD is fucking running wild right now. Yes, I have tried medication. It made things worse, so I gotta just try to power through it as the only thing. But I appreciate that it's not ideal for the video. That I am uh, struggling with the focus and memory. Yeah, Johnny Mnemonic. That's it. Mnemonic. Not, not. Yeah. I kind of made a horrible mix of pneumatic and mnemonic there. Um, yes, the yeah, he's really really great here, um, and as Clarence, and yeah, this guy, like, you almost immediately feel for him, and you can see at least some of yourself in him. Um, he fucking loves Elvis. He's literally introduced talking about, like, if he had to fuck a guy, he'd fuck Elvis. Yeah, the movie features homophobia. I hope it's not saying that it's okay. I think it is just saying these characters are homophobic, and that's not the only kind of bigotry that we see in the movie. And again, for all of them, I hope the idea is that they're just saying these are characters who have this bigotry, rather than that we're meant to agree that bigotry is okay. I discussed this somewhat in the spoiler video. Yes, I think, yeah. If he opens his mouth near you, and it might not be up to you if he does or not. Yeah, he's gonna fucking. There's a 60% chance, I'd say, at least, that he's gonna talk about Elvis. Um, Certainly, if he doesn't, he's gonna talk about other pop culture, and his conscience is Elvis. They call it the mentor, um, just to not get sued, but it's obviously Elvis. Anyone who has a passing knowledge of Elvis, which, like, at this point, I don't know, how you could not. You can immediately tell that it's Elvis, and I'm glad they did. Would have been pretty ridiculous if they got sued. It's not even. It's not supposed to be literally Elvis. It's just this guy's conception of Elvis, and that's made clear immediately because he's saying things that Clarence is thinking. You know, Val Kilmer plays the mentor, and my God, like, I always really liked Val Kilmer. Yeah, this is, I think this might be my favorite Val Kilmer performance. Heat's also real fucking good, though. Okay, there's a dead heat race between this and Heat for the top spot of everything I've seen Val Kilmer do in the 90s. He was obviously also great in Willow. I believe that was late 80s. Yeah, like, he clearly studied. It's got the voice and the body language. Yeah, it's so fucking good. I wonder if Austin Butler watched this movie, or at least those scenes, when he was preparing for Elvis. But he also had it 100% down. I think, yes. So let's talk about. Yeah, in closing about Clarence, you get the sense, like, he's a good guy. He's just not. He doesn't always 100% think things through, but if he thinks, oh, this person is fucking terrible, there's some chance we're going to agree. You know, yeah. I think that does bring us to, so, Alabama. Patricia Arquette does fantastic job. This is one of those characters that could so easily have ended up feeling like a manic pixie dream girl. You know, she's quirky and she's just there to, you know, help the male character that she's the love interest for self-actualize. But the there's just enough there to keep that from happening. There's the place where it so easily could fall into a manic pixie dream girl is that she has this joie de vivre. Like she's just when things are going well, she's a very very happy person. You know, she's optimistic, and it's one of those things where, like, you know, yeah, I mean, she does help, you know, Clarence be better. You know, that is like in real life. I'm not saying it's their responsibility, but right now it is the case that a lot of women help us men be better people. Um, yeah, uh, they do just enough. There's clearly an actual person there in this character, and yeah, she does a great job bringing that out of you know, I think what was on the page was probably already quite good, but if you had an actress who didn't, you know, who wasn't quite, you know, a good enough, experienced enough, yeah, this could really fall flat on its face. Uh, yeah, I already mentioned the, you know, Dennis Hopper as Clarence's dad. He's another one of those, you know, just got to give him good material and good direction, and he really does an amazing job. And yeah, he does here. He doesn't have a huge amount of screen time. That's gonna, and you know, with that, he really leaves an impression. You know, I actually there was a period where years passed between me watching two viewings of this movie for me. I forgot how little screen time he actually does have. Um, and yeah, the I didn't forget the character. I didn't forget the things he says and does. You know, which sometimes is the case when a character doesn't have a lot of screen time. And yeah, it goes for everyone in this that doesn't have a lot of screen time. Uh, yeah, Christopher Walken, goddamn, yeah, so fucking good. He's another one that just, yeah, you know, good material, good direction, and he just soars. And yeah, the he would appear in you know, one of Tarantino movies that Tarantino directs himself after this, and it's no wonder. I mean, I don't know if this was part of making that happen. He might have already had an eye on, because you know, you know, he's been amazing for, like, he was amazing for a while before this, you know. But yeah, it's uh, it's so fucking good. Like there's this suave nature to him that's yeah. Um, let's see. I think I'm trying to go in order of you know, which ones don't have, you know, of like amount of screen time, which I guess means around here. You know, so Michael Rappaport plays this really affable. He's like aspiring actor, and there's just optimism. You know, he's not like a carbon copy of you know, like this is one of the cases. Yeah, Alabama could easily have been a vagina version of um, Michael Rappaport's character Dick Ritchie, but no, like there's just enough there that yeah. And I think, yeah, you know, let's see. Gary Oldman plays Drexel Spivey, and yeah, he's a real just complete asshole, and they do a really great job with his introduction, making it making that very clear. Um, and yeah, I would say I could see a version of this movie where if they didn't have the budget or something, Spivey's and Dick Ritchie's first scenes would have been dialogue instead of actual scenes. But yeah, this is apparently one of Gary Oldman's favorite. He was asked to in 2011 to name his favorite role, and he named Lee Harvey Oswald in JFK, where he's also great, and this, and yeah, he, God, you know that it's a good day when you get to watch a 90s movie where Gary Oldman is the villain. Because, fuck, he was so goddamn good at this. I mean, he's still an incredible actor, but like he had a run during the 90s of these villain characters where it's just like, Jesus Christ. And yeah, this is actually, you know, it's not necessarily one of the ones that has the most screen time in the movie that they're in, but it is, yeah, it is actually one of the best, which is like there's a lot of competition there. I actually don't know that I don't think I can even name one where I think he's bad in if we're talking 90s where he plays the villain. But yeah. At the end of the day, okay, hypothetically, I don't know why you would, but let's say you're thinking hard rule, only going to watch one 90s movie where, Gary Oldman is the villain. I'll admit it probably wouldn't be this one, even though he's great, but in part, screen time. Yeah. I don't know. Air Force One, The Fifth Element, and okay. Also Leon, although that one's tougher to recommend because the fucking the entire element of her age, of Natalie Portman, the actress, and the character that she plays in that movie's age, and some things that some choices made, some very French choices. I think by this point you can probably deduce where I'm going with that. So yeah, it fucking sucks. Yeah. Moving on. Let's see. I think I feel like there's at least one other that I should talk about around here. Brad Pitt. This was back when he wasn't like. More recently, I've only really seen him play movies where they, acknowledge, he's conventionally attractive. I'm straight. I'm not. I'm capable of acknowledging. Okay, yeah, this guy's, yeah. I'm not into him, but I get why many would be. Um, yeah, I think I I really appreciate him doing a role like this back then. I've always liked his acting, though there's some shit in his personal life that's but yeah, they don't play up his conventionally attractive looks in this at all. He is a stoner. He spends a good chunk of like his screen time and also just the movie, because like stuff happens off screen and it'll cut back to there'll be other scenes and then I'll go back to him. He's still on the fucking couch, just like smoking weed and just like yeah, being a burden on his roommate Dick Ritchie. To be clear, I usually don't like the word burden. I hate this thing of like, oh, under capitalism, everybody has to contribute, which is part of why we need to, yeah, address that. But given that he is, you know, this is one of those cases where it seems like he probably could if he was just willing to, but yeah, like it seems like he just does nothing to, help. And it is very much this thing of like, a lot of people have known at least one person like this, right? And honestly, in real life, I think a huge percentage of people who do that. Again, I'm not saying that we should have to under capitalism, but there is a psychological thing of like we like to be doing something that we feel is valuable. And if this were taking place in real life, I would say try to get some kind of outreach, or get like he probably is just lacking motivation. It's also possible that Dick needs to be more firm with boundaries and say, hey, listen, if you're going to live here, you have to do at least some like chores or something. Um, you know, Dick is not the most confident or the one who's the most effective at getting people to listen or do as he says. Um, which again, a lot of us have known a Dick Ritchie. Um, I think that might be. Let's see who is left. I purposely didn't. The most of the names are actually on the cover. This is one of those DVDs that are sold in part off all the people that are in it that you know and love from elsewhere. James Gandolfini, not a huge amount of screen time, but fucking amazing. Of course he is. Like when I've never seen him be not amazing. He's got this great monologue that's God, sure, amazing. And yeah, I gotta at least briefly mention Tom Sizemore, also in Heat, and Chris Penn, also in Reservoir Dogs. Both of them, they're cops, and they have some like scenes where it's like this should not work. This is one of the Tarantino's strengths as a writer is and director, but here writer pastiche. He's able to do versions of scenes that we've seen before that feel fresh. And I do think that is one of the best ways to make, because like we shouldn't be forgetting this shit. Like he on the DVD for Reservoir Dogs, at least my DVD, there's this intro to the movie where he talks about he noticed one day, hey, we haven't had a heist movie in a while. I should make a heist movie, and I fucking love that as like motivation for making for creative expression. Just being like, we should, like, this is such a cool thing. Let's make more, and yeah. I'm really glad, because like there's so many people who'd say, no, I can't write this scene. We'll just have it take place off screen or something. And yeah. At least one of the scenes here could have been off screen, but I'm so glad that it's that we actually see it. This is a movie that I can't speak for anyone else, but I personally feel something. And this is something positive, not when I'm not meant to, at least, for every single everyone who has a line in this movie. I feel something, and that's like there's so many movies where you don't have that, and it's kind of ridiculous considering how many there's like a dozen fucking characters in this thing, right. Saul Rubinek, also amazing. When isn't he? In what I've seen him in, he's always been amazing. This is probably my favorite role of his. He's so fucking funny. Yeah, this a Hollywood guy who's just, oh my god, the way he talks and the shit he says, and just yeah, he's so fucking good. And it's this thing of like, Tarantino wrote this before he himself was a big name in Hollywood. Um, I don't think that he's like bitter or bit him for that matter, but there's definitely I don't know if it's like an outsider's perspective, but yeah, um, it does feel like this is what a lot of people think Hollywood people are like. Yeah, I think that brings us. That's all the characters. Let's see what else we got. Yeah. So other than that, that brings right. The pacing is fucking amazing. Like I am. The movie's like 110 minutes, and it just fucking flies by. Like what's the word? I don't. Ah, 1 second. The Right. Yeah, there was a time where again, period of a couple of years where I didn't watch the movie, and then I sat down to watch it again. I remembered it as being like, I don't know, barely 90 minutes, but everything just works in it, and it lets scenes sit when that's needed, like the initial like them starting a relationship together. Like, okay, there's some fast stuff there as well, but it's not in such a hurry to get to bloodshed, and yeah, like scenes of like when I rewatched it, I was like, oh right, this actually they spent a little while building up tension here, because I just remembered that it was tense, and I remembered the resolution to the tense scene, but I forgot. Like, yeah, they actually do, and yeah, part of it is the cinematography and editing. I think that pretty well brings us to yeah. So I can't really give examples of the special effects, but I will say all of it is amazing, and there's the exact right amount. Um, you know, Tony Scott did definitely like making things, very big and yeah. And this is one case where he, um, yeah, he didn't go too big. And yeah, just like the tension and suspense, and eventual relief through scenes of violence, and then cool down. Incredible. Some of the best in Tarantino's entire filmography, in my opinion. And part of it is the yeah Tony Scott direction. Um, yeah. Let's see. I've already talked about. Right. I guess yeah. That actually does bring us to yeah. Um, let's see. I feel like was there one more thing I really wanted to say? Uh, no. Yeah. I think that is. I think that's everything that isn't a spoiler. Yeah. Uh, yeah. I rate this 8 truly romantic or quite violent stories. Yeah, let's go with that. Out of 10.